As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurions? Welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and I'm one of the hosts, and with me, he's the creator of the Awful Waffle himself. It's
Yahel. Steve, I told you to keep that under wraps.
Sorry, the world needs to know. We're a news organization here.
you don't know what you've unlocked. It's going to be on the next edition of Elon Musk's to Twitter files.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, like nobody cares about it. He thinks he's like exposing all these like secrets of like government officials asking for stuff to be taken down. It's like, but nobody's really caring except the people that care about what billionaires do.
Right. I hear you. Well,
no one's reading these Twitter files and going, I'm changing my worldview.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that people care about. Well, I assume they care about if they grew up in the 90s, and that is a little show called Salute Your Shorts.
Yeah.
What's your history with Salute Your Shorts?
I watched it pretty religiously when it was, on television during its initial run. I have really fond memories of it. I do remember being bummed out that it only had a couple seasons. But yeah, in hindsight, we probably should have covered, because we're covering the first episode like we always do. But in hindsight, I almost feel like maybe we should have covered the second episode with Zeke, the plumber, because I do think like that's the most famous one.
Yeah, but it seems like people do remember old Zeke just because he haunted their dreams or lived in their head rent free, as people say these days. I was actually going to say we should have gone maybe a half step back and done the unaired pilot. Did you take a look at that on YouTube?
I did not know that was a thing. No, I fired up the old Paramount Plus, my Star Trek streaming service that happens to also carry Nickelodeon shows.
Right. So
that's where I watched it. And they didn't list the unaired pilot.
Right. Well, that's because you can go onto YouTube and watch it for free. So I'm sure there's no money in it for them. But yeah, it's weird. There's Michael. Like the actor who played Michael isn't there. It's a completely different actor, and the show is called called Welcome to Bunk 13. It wasn't called Salute Your Shorts. Yeah, there's.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something like it was called Wave to Your Pants.
Wave to Your Pants. That is not as catchy as
that is catchy.
But even, and I just want to get your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts on the title of the show, like Salute Your Shorts? Because, I mean, obviously, we're going to see in the cold open that, I guess, when a new kid shows up to camp, you, like, ransack his bag and hoist his boxers up on a flagpole. I mean, what if it is a woman? Like, do you do the same to her? And also, like...
Well, Steve, women can wear shorts.
Well, yeah, all right, so... We're saying it's just short shorts and not undergarments, is what you're saying here.
No, it's underwear, because Michael does say, "Oh, what's my underwear doing on the flagpole?"
Right. So, I mean, I'm just saying, if it is a woman who's showing up new to camp, what do you hoist up onto the flagpole?
I don't know. I mean, the girls. I don't know, Steve. I feel like any answer will be problematic, and I would rather not have to deal with the consequences. And I think we should just move forward. And I do want to mention Stadium Arts, aka Stry, is in the chat.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining. Please don't report anything you've heard the last 30 seconds to anyone.
Hey, he's a trustworthy Obscuria, and I know he's not gonna rat on us for anything.
I know. If anything, Stry, you're part of the problem by listening to the show. So you're just as guilty.
Thank you for enabling us, Stry. Thank you very much. But no, okay. So basically, the point of that question is, all right, do you think Salute Your Shorts is a kind of obscure, dare I say obscure, or confusing title for this show. Or at this point, it's just grown on you and it doesn't matter.
I didn't think about it as a kid, but it really like doesn't make any
No,
sense.
no, it doesn't.
Like I get that it's an opening line or whatever or a line that's said during the opening, the cold open of the show, but it doesn't like scream, "Hey, this is a show about kids at a camp, at a summer camp."
No, and I remember I used to like make the mistake. I'd be like, "Hey, do you want to go watch Camp Anawana?" And then another kid would be like, "Don't you mean Salute Your Shorts?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the one." And furthermore, I guess we might as well dive into, have you ever gone to a camp, like a summer camp or anything similar to Camp Anawana?
No. Well, that's not true. I did get sent to like a few like Christian summer camp things. I know we already railed on the Christians quite a bit last week during Bible Man. So Bible Man did not make any appearances. I guess Willie Ames was too busy living that secular Dungeons and Dragon lifestyle.
Divorcing his wife.
Divorcing his wife / computer.
Yeah, divorcing his wife / computer. But no, it's funny you bring that up because like, yeah, I mean, I never went for like a week or like a whole, month or summer long. But yeah, there was one time I went to it was like a weekend Christian, I don't know, Bible camp or something like that. And much like yourself, there was no Bible man there. It was very, very disappointing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like watching Salute Your Shorts, did it make you want to go to a camp like that?
Kind of. I mean, I always wanted to go to one as a kid, but it just wasn't. I don't think I know anybody that went to a summer camp.
Yeah, me either.
Do you?
Maybe, yeah, it's just, maybe it's
I feel like it's like a rich kind of, at least upper middle class kind of a thing.
Right. There's that. And I don't know, maybe it's just a different generation, or maybe it's a little old fashioned or something, or maybe it depends.
I mean, they were definitely like a thing in the 80s and 90s still.
Right. Or maybe it just depends on the region of the U.S. you live in.
I was just going to say the same thing because, I mean, we're living like in Florida where there's already like lots of outside activities that are done regularly. So the closest thing to like a secular, I guess, non-Christian camp, a camp that Jesus wouldn't step foot in was Nature's Classroom, which I know that wasn't really like a summer camp, but, every day you got like bused to, did you have Nature's Classroom?
I never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Oh, okay. So it's a thing. They do it in Florida where they bus you to like this, like, I don't know, this like nature-y forest area. And there's like a bunch of like summer camp type activities that you do. And you're basically there all day like you would be at school for a week. But you're bused there back and forth. You don't stay overnight.
Oh, I see. Well,
but these summer camps, like, it's like literally the entire summer in Camp Anawana. And I was like, man, that sounds so cool. You get to be around other kids and not deal around your bogus parents.
Instead, you set up a little pranks for not only the other campers, but for that no good camp counselor, Ugg.
Yeah. I wanted to go to a summer camp and make a lifelong friend that I can never see regularly.
Right. Have your heart broken early as a teen or preteen. Yeah. Sounds great. Sounds awesome.
Steve, I don't know why, but I keep getting. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I just think it's funny because you're about to change the view in OBS, anyways. I keep getting like lower and lower as the show goes on.
I haven't noticed.
Maybe it's my seat, actually. Maybe it's I'll raise it really high.
There you go. Yeah, raise the roof.
Oh, it's never this high. Okay.
That very Shivani of you.
I got to be the tallest, Steve.
There you go. Well, yeah, before we jump into the show, just a few short announcements. The other Reptilian Media podcast, Theme Park Legends, that I run, where I interview people who work in the theme park industry. There was a new episode for that available. And also, we have to talk about our, celebrity run-in on Twitter with Michael Ray Bauer. That's Donkey Lips himself. A friend of mine forwarded a tweet about this episode to Michael Ray Bauer, Donkey Lips himself, and he actually replied about it. Kind of a So should I even mention it? I mean, it's on Twitter, so anyone can read it.
Well, you've already mentioned it. Yeah, basically he was like, no thanks. I don't want to listen to another podcast where the hosts are like, I can't remember exactly what he said, so I'm paraphrasing, and I apologize if I got it wrong. But basically, another podcast where someone's like, the hosts are like taking jabs at me or trying to make fun of me, which I thought was like not weird that he said it. I thought it was weird that there's podcasters like making fun of him because he's great in this.
Yeah. I thought that was odd too. I was like, who's ragging on Donkey Lips in 2023 or even in like the 2020s?
Or even in the 90s. Like he's super entertaining. As Donkey.
Most of the cast is, and yeah. But hey, it's at least he knows we exist. I invited him to come on the live stream, but he said he wasn't available. So I mean, fingers crossed that he actually listens. If he doesn't, hey, that's fine. At least we got to interact with.
We're definitely fans.
We're big fans of Michael Ray Bauer.
It's funny because when you showed me the tweet, you said something like, "Yeah, we'll give him the Rob Liefeld treatment." I'm like, "Well, Rob Liefeld was mad at us." So
well, we thought he might be mad at us. Had he listened to the episode, he might be, but he never did.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was mad at the just the thought of us making a joke about him,
making fun of pouches.
He wasn't like. But Rob Liefeld, it was because he wasn't just like concerned, and I apologize, I forgot the name of the actor, Michael Bauer. Like it was like very reasonably like, hey, I've seen this kind of stuff before. I don't want to like deal with it, which I get if he's had bad experiences. But but Rob Liefeld was just like angry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he announced to the room.
No reason. He's like, I'm angry that anyone's talking about my very public art.
Right, yeah. He announced to the Facebook group, he was like, is anyone listening to these things? And by then, like, it had already gotten like quite a few likes. So apparently someone was, and I jumped in there and tried to do some damage control. And with that classic line, we're both big fans, Rob.
Which is true.
It is true.
I mean, we made a few jokes here and there, but I mean, for the most part, like we were very complimentary about how like distinct his art is, like genuinely.
Yeah. Well, he's
he's got a style that's like very much his own, and that's not easy to do in the comic book world.
He's a very fragile 50-year-old man. I guess.
Just let me take you on a date, Rob. Let me take you to Top Golf. Then we'll go for a horseback ride. Maybe a nice dinner.
Hey, well,
we'll see where things go, Rob. Maybe I'll unbutton your Levi's button-up jeans.
Well, then
if nobody knows anything about Liefeld or like the Levi commercials he did, they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, well, after you unbutton that, you'd have to unbutton all of his pouches as well.
Oh God, I don't have that kind of time.
All right, well, enough about the awesome Rob Liefeld.
Please, let's move on, because if Michael Bauer is listening right now, he's like, "Oh, I'm so glad I didn't come on this show."
He could be a huge fan, just like us. All right, so here we go. We're going to the Obscurity Now. Here we go.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
Yeah, alrighty. So Salute Your Shorts ran for 2 seasons, total of 26 episodes, and premiered June 1st, 1991, and lasted all the way till September 12th, 1992. And here's a synopsis for anyone who was, actually just born 15 years ago when Salute Your Shorts was no longer on the air for whatever reason. All right.
Sure.
A group of kids at a summer camp run by the heard but never seen Dr. Khan form friendships as they spend time harassing buffoonish camp counselor Kevin Ugg Lee. And when you started watching this, and I mean, did you just completely forget about Dr. Khan? Because I know I did.
I completely forgot about Dr. Khan. He's pretty funny though.
Yeah.
I don't know how I forgot about him. I wrote a couple of like the one-liners that he had, but yeah, I completely forgot. And I don't think they ever show Dr. Khan. It's always only from the speakers, the loudspeakers.
He might as well be Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. But there is a lot of sort of like trivia and little tidbits that I'm sure we won't have time to get to all of them. But one of those tidbits is Dr. Khan was originally supposed to be Ben Stein. He would have been perfect for that, but
Oh, I could see that.
I bet
yeah.
they couldn't afford him. We're watching season 1, episode 1, which is titled Michael Comes to Camp. And here's a synopsis for that episode. During his first day of summer camp, Michael understands what occurs at Camp Anawana. My God, that is a terrible synopsis. I really got to stop.
It sounds like a horror.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be like a horror show. He understands what occurs at Camp Anawana.
It's like it was written by for lack of a better term, someone who doesn't speak English as their first language. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but okay. So Michael basically, he gets the lay of the land of what happens at Camp Anawana. It was Salute Your Shorts was created and also written by one Steve Slavkin, and some of his previous work, which he's usually a writer. He wrote like a horror whodunit movie called Cutting Class, which looks like it actually might be worth checking out at some point. He wrote an episode of Extreme Ghostbusters, which I still want us to cover someday, and Power Rangers Dino Thunder, which we don't ever need to cover that. Are you familiar with any of that stuff?
Some of it, but not the last one.
Right. And this was directed by one Peter Baldwin, no relation to the Baldwin brothers. This guy is basically a sort of TV legend. Like his first directing credit was the Dick Van Dyke Show, and he just worked steadily like all the way into the 2000s. So I picked out some classic TV shows here that I'm sure you love, including Alf, Webster, the already covered by us Small Wonder, and
Did you know that
Blossom.
Webster, it might be the finale, but there's like a Star Trek episode of Webster. I think I brought this up before.
I think you did.
Worf himself shows up, and like Webster is on like the bridge of the Enterprise D and everything. It's weird. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I've talked about this before. We got to cover.
Yeah, we need to do that along with. Oh shoot! I just completely forgot. Another one of the things that you mentioned that has the space.
Thanks, Steve.
Space Family Matters that you were talking about.
Oh yeah. The finale of Family Matters, where like Urkel goes to the moon or something. I can't remember exactly, but
right.
Honestly, we should just do a Family Matters podcast that just covers the last season because it's bad shit.
Well, I guess once we get tired of all the other stuff, then maybe we can do that. But just a quick little side note, since we mentioned Alf, they're finally getting a Blu-ray release of Project Alf, like the TV movie.
Oh,
where I know you're excited.
How aroused were you? You must have given your wife some good loving that night.
Hey, I always do, always. So as I mentioned, the Steve Slavkin is also the pretty much sole writer of Salute Your Shorts. And that pretty much does it for me. Want to tell us who are some of the actors in Camp Anawana, a.k.a. Salute Your Shorts?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Since we already kind of talked about him a little bit, we'll start off with Michael Bauer, who plays Donkey Lips. He's still actually got some stuff in the works. Looks like he was in a miniseries just this year called Daisy Jones and the Six. But yeah, he's got quite a few other like credits that I thought were kind of cool. He did some voices for Star Wars, the Old Republic video game, and Red Dead Redemption.
Wow.
And Halo 3 ODST. And if there's a few other like video games that he did voices for, which I thought
I'm now imagining like Donkey Lips as Master Chief.
They should do a DLC for that. Okay, so up next we've got Megan Berwick, who plays ZZ Ziff. So that's triple Z or Z, I guess, for short. But oddly enough, she didn't really have a lot of acting credits. Just 3 of them. Besides Salute Your Shorts, she was on an episode of Full House and something called The Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleader Murdering Mom.
Wow. That sounds awesome.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah.
It's a TV movie. oddly enough. So I don't know, but we might need to watch it. Beau Bridges is in it for some reason.
Boy, he must have been hurting for a paycheck.
Yeah, like Holly Hunter and Beau Bridges look like they're the two big names in that
Nice.
one. But anyways, up next we've got lost my notes here for a second. We've got Trevor Eister, who plays Sponge Harris, although he's credited as Tim Eister. So he's like the nerd. Trevor has not done any acting, at least that's on IMDb, since 2015, but he had quite a few things in 2015 and 2014, mostly shorts. He was in something that sounds like we would cover called Alligator 2: The Mutation.
Oh, I know that. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Oh, do
I
you?
didn't
Okay,
realize he
so
was
he-
in that. Wow.
So he's in that. Up next, we've got Venus DeMilo Thomas, who plays Telly Redford. Venus has still, acting. She's got quite a few
She's
credits.
a tennis
here.
player,
She has
right?
What?
He's a tennis player.
Yeah. So she had a movie in 2022, some other things in 2020 and 2019. So she was in The Bold and the Beautiful from 2000 to 2002.
Oh.
And this is not a Star Trek connection, but it almost is. She was in one episode of Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction hosted by Jonathan Frakes, a.k.a. Commander
We're going to have
Riker
to cover
himself.
that show someday.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I actively watched that
Yeah,
show.
me too. I thought it was good.
I throw it on randomly on Tubi. It's good stuff, man. Up next, we've got Heidi Lucas, who plays Dina Alexander. Or was it Dinah? No, it was Dina Alexander, right? Okay. So she stopped acting after 1997. The only other thing where she had like a lot of regular appearances on was a show called Hypernauts. It was like a TV show. Then we've got Danny Cooksey, who I remember him from Pete and Pete, The Adventures of Pete and Pete. I don't know if you remember that was like another Nickelodeon
He was on
show.
Pete and Pete. Are you sure?
Yeah.
As what?
It's literally in his IMDb.
Oh, okay.
What do you mean as what? He's Pete. He's one of the Petes.
Okay. Oh, how about that?
Yeah, now you've got me questioning myself. Let me see. Yeah, no, wait. Oh, wait, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was somebody else that was on Pete and Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. They all have red hair. They all look alike to you. But I'm
They all
pretty
look alike
sure
to me.
Danny Cooksey is not one of the Pete's.
Man, somebody is one of the Petes. Somebody was on that show because I saw it earlier when I was looking up, and now I feel like I should have. I didn't make a note of it because I was like, oh, I won't forget this. Yeah. But anyways, so he plays Bud
Nick,
who's kind of like the
Bud Nick.
I'm sorry,
Bud Nick.
Yeah, Bud Nick, who's kind of like the lead bully.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna move. He's been in a bunch of stuff actually. He was one of the more active guys, actors from the show. He's got. He's got. Sorry, I was just reading the comments that Stadium Arts wrote that he thought I was saying Pete Pete, and he's like, "Wow, that's racist." But yeah, he's got like a bunch of credits, like voice credits, for animation to his name.
Yeah, I see that he was in. Did you ever play that game Mad World? I loved that game.
I think I watched you play. It's a black and white game,
man,
right?
that's from back in the day for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and then we've got Steve Slavkin, who also plays the voice of Dr. Khan.
Real quick for Budnick, you have to mention that he was in Terminator 2. Like that's like the one big thing that I remember him from. At least as a kid, I was like, "Oh my God, it's Budnick in Terminator 2." You remember that?
I did not know that. I don't remember him being in Terminator 2. He plays Tim in Terminator 2. It looks like I don't.
Yeah, just like he's like the friend of I can't remember his Connor.
But this is a very professional, well prepared. I think Michael Bauer made the right choice.
Oh, wow. It's the same level of professionalism we always give, which is some.
I could have sworn one of these guys was on Pete and Pete. Wait, was it Michael Bauer? Now I'm wondering. Was it Michael? Oh, man. Let me see. I got to double check here. Oops. Oh, God. What just happened? Okay.
Well, all right.
It is not him. Okay.
I get it. People,
and then
gingers
finally,
all look alike to you. I get it. It's okay.
finally, we've got, well, in the credits, it also says that like Henry Laster is in it playing Kent Flankman. I'm assuming he's the kid that almost gets the awful waffle at the end. But then we have Kirk Bailey, who plays Kevin Ugly, the camp counselor. Unfortunately, Kirk, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. He did pass away last year, and he has quite a pretty long list of stuff on his IMDb. But more importantly, Steve, he was in Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, but he was also, and I remember because I actually recognized him when I saw him on there. He was on an episode of Star Trek Voyager playing the father of one Annika Hansen, aka Seven of Nine.
Wow, he's the father of Seven of Nine? Oh, That is awesome. All right, shall I run it?
That's it.
Oh no! We just entered another Star Trek connection.
But it's too bad he passed away. It'd be so great if they brought him onto Picard and he's all like, old and I am your father, Seven of Nine, and then he slips on a banana peel or something.
So yeah, I don't know why I thought like somebody from this cast was of Salute Your Shorts was on Pete and Pete, because I'm looking through and I don't know, one of them must have like a guest spot or something on an episode.
I told you why, because you're racist against gingers. It's okay.
Anyways, in the chat we've got Detroit Retro Gamer. Thanks for joining. He said Zeke the plumber. Yeah, we were talking how maybe we should have actually covered. Well, I was saying maybe we should have actually covered Zeke the plumber, the second episode of the show, just because it's the most popular.
Right. I mean, but I put a picture of him in the thumbnail. I mean, at least it's gonna.
Oh, well, that's just as good as covering it.
It's all the same information, right? We're just, yeah. But no, we'll save that one for Halloween. How about that? We'll do that as a Halloween episode later. So.
Stadium Arts commented that I probably think gingers grow in the ground like roots.
Do you?
Well, I don't want to incriminate myself any more than I already have. Right. So why don't we just move on to the synopsis?
Canceled by like the American Ginger Society after this episode.
Nobody takes those people seriously.
Whoa, those people! You heard it here, folks. All right, let's do this thing. So. We're outside. It's daytime, and a camera pans over a wooden sign that reads Camp Anawana. And below that sign is a banner that reads, Welcome to Camp Anawana. And Yahel, did you know that Anawana is, I don't know if this is the correct like vocabulary term, but Anawana is kind of like a anagram or something of a kid saying, I don't wanna. Like that's where he came up with the idea. It's like, I don't want to go to Camp Anawana.
That's pretty clever. I actually did always wonder where that came from. So, okay.
Oh, there you go. And
look at you being prepared with the fun.
Yeah,
things.
I'm not over here spreading misinformation about people who were in Pete and who weren't. But all right, moving on. So Dina, one of the campers, instructs another camper, ZZ, on how to hang up the banner. Someone yells that a bus is coming. And then they also, I guess it's Dina or someone says, okay, the banner's perfect now. And just as the bus drives directly through the banner. And then we get a message on a megaphone from Dr. Khan welcoming everyone to Camp Anawana, the happiest place in the universe. It's like, ooh, almost infringing on like Disney's copyrights. I love it. And that all the new campers need to report to the lodge for bunk assignments. And a new kid, Michael, steps off of the bus. He tries to ask Ugg, the counselor, who's just sort of like meandering in the background, where the lodge is. But Sponge takes him by the elbow. He's a current camper. And he tells Michael that he made a huge mistake coming to Camp Anawana. Michael says that it wasn't his choice. Sponge replies, it never is.
I don't know, like at Sponge's delivery, I don't know what it is about it, but like he like made me legit laugh out loud several times.
Oh man, I laughed frequently throughout this episode, and
yeah, me too.
It really holds up, but we're already saying too much. So yeah, Sponge was great, and most of the cast is. But anyway, moving on. The bus pulls away, revealing one Budnick and Donkey Lips, who are basically the two camp bullies. Budnick shakes Michael's hand, says that he's like the welcoming committee for Camp Anawana,
Yeah.
and then he pushes Michael over the crouching back of one Donkey Lips.
Yeah, give him the old school boy.
Is that? Oh, yeah. It's like,
That's what it's
see,
from.
before I learned that it was called that, me and my friends called that move the 310. Have you ever heard it called that before?
No.
Whoa.
I don't think anybody
Whoa.
called. Why did you guys call it the 310?
You need to take the bass out of your voice, mister.
Well, I don't. We'll see. Explain to me. Why is it called the 310?
I don't know. That was just what my friends called it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just went along with whatever they. Just following orders, huh?
Oh, yeah. Just like you and your hatred for the Gingers. But anyway.
Hey, I don't hate them. I'm perfectly fine with them. Just keep them out of my life. You know, maybe we put them in their own camp. I don't know. I'm just workshopping.
I thought you were gonna say keep them out of public schools, but yeah, okay. So Budnick and Donkey Lips, they grab Michael's bag. They ransack it, take out his boxers, and hoist it to the top of the flagpole. ZZ, Dina, and the yet unseen Telly see the boxers, and they all giggle, and Dina mentions that a new kid must have showed up at camp. Michael says to Sponge, like, what should I do? Like, run away and never come back. And Sponge says, click your heels together and salute your shorts. And so we get the title of our show. What were your thoughts on the cold opening here?
I really liked it. It's a fun little open. You get a few good laughs. We get the reason for the name of the show, I guess. And back to what you were saying earlier, I guess they just always hang up somebody's clothing.
Yeah.
It just happens to be shorts in this case, is what I'm
Right.
But yeah, I really liked it. What did you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. It sets up the world of this camp quite well. I mean,
the kids all have the actors all have pretty good chemistry with each other.
Oh yeah, everyone's pretty charismatic. What are your thoughts on Michael himself?
So he's the one that you think is the weak link in the cast. If I remember correctly, this was his first acting credit on IMDb.
Okay.
So he may be one of the lesser experienced ones. But I actually thought he was fine. I didn't have a problem with any of his lines or delivery of them. I would say, like, if anybody was going to be, and I hate to even say like anybody's like a weak actor or the weak link in the cast, because these are kids. And historically, like most kid actors, they're not good. This show is the exception where just about everyone's pretty damn good in their roles. I would say maybe Venus de Milo, maybe.
I thought she
a couple times.
I thought she was fine for them.
Oh, I don't think she's bad. I was just saying, like, if I was gonna say maybe who I thought maybe was the weakest, her. I mean, but don't get me wrong, like her worst delivery is better than anything I could do.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, everyone's like good. It's just like Michael compared to the rest of them is just a little lesser than. And I mean,
I would say maybe at least in this episode, maybe he's not like as charismatic as the other ones, because a lot of these other kids like have like a lot of charisma and on-screen presence. But I think part of it too is like he's the new kid, so he's supposed to kind of, maybe not be comfortable. So I think maybe that's part of it. So for me, at least, it works.
Right. I mean, you could also make the argument that he's the guy we're seeing the world through, basically. So
that's a good point, too.
So he doesn't have like a whole lot of character just yet, but he does get replaced in the second season. So, there might be something going on there. I don't know. But let's see. Moving on here, the theme plays, and the theme is written by one Ed Alton, who basically is a seasoned musical TV guy. He wrote music for JAG and NCIS and Suddenly Susan. And I mean, this...
So he went from Salute Your Shorts to JAG, the natural transition.
Well, I mean, he had a few things in between there. I just sort of picked out, like, the hits, if you will. I mean, this is a classic theme that lives in, I'd say, every 90s kid's head. But what do you think about it? Just the theme of the opening.
Oh, the theme song was awesome. Like I remembered it. Like as soon as it started up, like it all came back to me. It's super catchy. It's really entertaining. For those that haven't seen it, basically the kids themselves like sing like a camp song about Camp Anawanna with Ugg on the piano, and they kind of like mess up the lines. Like there's like the thing where like Budnick, instead of saying like, you know, my heart will never be apart from you, he says like fart
Right.
or
I hope we
something
never
really
part.
loud.
Yeah, and he says, I mean, and how many? That's so realistic. I mean, how many times
Yeah.
did you use the word fart instead of something else in like
Yeah,
a
exactly,
song? Yeah.
exactly.
And also, everyone is singing out of tune. Like they're all really kind of, oh, I don't want to be doing this, which is just 100% realistic for kids of that age. And did you notice that like whenever Ugg was like singing by himself, that weird like Indian carving is like moving around in the background?
No, I did not notice
I mean,
that.
I think I used to notice it back then, but it really, I think the idea is that, you know, they're pranking him. I mean, it's all about the pranks at Camp Anawanna. So classic theme. Moving on, Michael enters the bunk. Budnick welcomes him to bunk 13. Budnick then basically introduces him / us, the viewer, to the other characters, one Sponge and Donkey Lips. He puts Sponge in a headlock and quizzes him on, just random sort of,
Yeah, he says something like, yeah, he's like a computer. You just squeeze him and as head and ask him, you know, whatever, and he'll spit out. Like he asks him to like multiply like some like big numbers.
Yeah,
he spits it out to like the 8th decimal place or something.
Yeah, his brain soaks up information like a sponge, and then he introduces Donkey Lips, and Donkey Lips is just like, I can hawk a loogie like 40 feet. And like Mike, do you remember what Michael says?
I can't remember.
He just
what does
says
he say?
your mom must be really proud.
Oh, that's right. That's right. She was really proud. And again, like the delivery from Donkey Lips of Michael is like so good and very realistic. You know, it feels like, you know, a lot of times with these kids shows, I don't think Nickelodeon is as guilty of it as some other ones, but you know, you can tell that an adult wrote the show, and this is what some like out of touch, you know, 45-year-old thinks kids talk like. And here, that's not the case. Like the dialogue, for the most part, comes off very natural.
I mean, this is like peak Nickelodeon. I mean, of course, for people of our age, of course, we're going to say that. And this is before it turns into, you know, we're trying to be like the Disney Channel Nickelodeon. But more on that later. So this part I thought was pretty risque, at least here in 2023.
Me too.
Budnick opens his chest and he says, "Oh, we've got," like a trunk, basically. Like he opens his chest.
Yeah, he's not opening his chest, like it's not bursting open like an alien.
He exposes his black heart, but he opens like a trunk and he's like, "Oh, we've got great reading material," and it's clearly like a girly mag. He says. And this is like a weird. What's that?
Yeah, it was so weird. He says like, "I'll tell you what, for like 50 cents, I'll hold the magazine for you and let you look at it. For $1, I'll let you turn the pages."
It's like, wow. So it's $1.50 like per page to like read the girly mag. And why would you want to stand there as he reads it? Like that's.
Well, and I suspect there wouldn't be a lot of reading going on.
Exactly. So yeah, that could get real awkward.
Yeah, I'm glad that the joke didn't continue. But no, it was funny and it was like really unexpected for sure.
Mm-hmm. So he shows Michael to his bed. There's a big stain on it, which I mean seems very accurate. Michael looks at a cleaner bed. He's like, "Huh. I bet you guys rigged this up. No thanks. I'm just going to go ahead and take the stain bed over here." He lays on it, and then it very slowly falls to the ground.
Like collapses.
Yeah, so, I mean, man, old Budnick, do you think he rigged both beds? Like, he's just so sly.
Probably.
Yeah.
I will say there's a really funny line here before he chooses a bed because he's asking what the stain's for. And, Sponge tells Michael that, that's where there was a dead raccoon in here. So Michael's like, "Oh, is that stain where the raccoon died?" And Sponge says, "No, that's where he suffered."
And like, that's I mean, spoiler alert.
So dark.
Yeah, it's the writing is so good because there's the term subvert your expectations is thrown around a lot these days, usually to describe really terrible blockbusters, but I mean that's what it really does here. Because I mean they could have just gone with the straight, oh yeah, that's where the raccoon died, but no, old Steve Slavkin, I believe that was his last name. He zigs when you think you're gonna zag, and just sort of catches you off guard, and it's just so good. And then after the bed falls over, Donkey Lips and Budnick, they deliver. I remember this line. I think it's used a lot throughout the show. It goes, "You're roasted, toasted, and burnt to a crisp." So anything else to add for that scene?
No. Pretty good scene.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Cut to exterior shots of the camp as Dr. Khan announces he wants everyone participating in sports or outdoor activities, including one Dina Alexander. And now we are inside the girls' bunk where Dina herself is applying, nail stuff to her fingernails, nail polish. That's what it's called.
Yeah, it's not called nail stuff.
Right. So Dina says she can't put a glove on because she's drying her nails. And then ZZ shows up and she asks if she's going to do anything this summer because she already made these crafts and went on a nature walk. Then Telly shows up and says she can't wait to play ball because her arm is feeling good. And she shows her pitcher's mitt and she punches it. And then Dina asks Telly if she's going to go out in public wearing those glasses. And Telly says she needs them to see. And this is kind of an important scene. It doesn't feel like it, but do you know why?
Do I know why it's important?
Yes.
Well, yeah, obviously because the glasses become a plot point later on. But this is one of several times where they set something up and pay it off later, which, again, you don't see a lot in kids' shows. I'll get to it later, but there's a really funny joke later. Well, I thought it was really funny that they set up really nicely too. But yeah, I thought this was great because they establish here that Tilly's the athletic one, that maybe she's a bit of a tomboy and that she needs these glasses to see. They just do a really good job of establishing all the characters here, the female characters right off the bat.
Yep. Oh, you nailed it. Yep. Great character work, and it shows us their stuff, which is going to get taken later on in the episode. So, you pretty much nailed it there, partner. I think the Gingers might forgive you after all. So now they're on the...
you're the one that keeps calling me that. My best friend growing up, one of my best friends, he was a redhead.
Oh, so...
I just pulled I have lots of red-haired friends.
So that makes it okay. Is that what you're saying?
I'm making it worse. Yeah. I will give to some red-haired fund after the show.
A public apology. That's the least you can do. All right. So
yes.
Cut to they're on the baseball field, and Counselor Kevin Lee, a.k.a. Ugg, announces to the group of campers that he will be their counselor this year. And this is great. First off, they all begin chanting, "Ugly, ugly," over and over again, hence his nickname, Ugg. And Ugg gives some pretty funny lines here. He says, "You keep the body sharp, and you never miss the point." Which, is just a stupid line that means absolutely...
It's so, nonsensical.
But it so works for him because, he's a guy who
really
tries so hard to be serious, but he's really just a massive goof, and it's just awesome. And do you remember the other thing?
Do you want to say... I'm sorry, I didn't want to forget to say hi to Smoke Monster, who's also in the chat here. All he said was ha ha ha. I don't know what that's in reference to, but do I remember what now?
He says something else before that, something about I agree with the Greeks of I don't remember. There's no point in bringing it up.
I don't remember the line either, but I do remember Budnick saying something like, "Oh, why don't you tell us another exciting story about how you failed out of gym PE teacher college or something like that."
Yes, and that is the next scene, or not the next scene, but next line, and then he says, "Drop and give me 20." Yeah.
Yeah, and again, and it's not so much that joke is funny or whatever what Budnick says, but it's such a thing a kid his age would say, especially in the 90s. I don't know. It's just really spot
And
on.
it's probably true too. So now they're out in the ball field actually playing ball. Michael says he wants to pound Budnick, and by pound he means fight him. I guess they didn't want to use the word fight. It sounds way worse to say pound.
But they do start yelling.
Yeah,
fight
yeah,
later,
they do. So I guess he was just trying to, use a different word for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So Ugg calls Michael up to bat. He misses 2 pitches from Telly. Then after some advice from Sponge, he hits a fly ball. And after sort of running the bases, he's about to go into third base. Budnick ends up with the ball as Michael heads in. Budnick says he'll have to go through him. So basically, like, this is his chance. He does go through him, and they basically end up having a very sort of off-screen fight. Like, you can just sort of see them sort of run into each other.
Yeah, they're kind of tussling on the ground more than anything.
Right. And I'd say, this is an acceptable amount of fight to have back in the 90s. I mean,
they're kids, Steve. They can't,
right.
What do you want? You want them to
No, I'm
each other?
saying they wouldn't have even that nowadays, I'm sure.
Yeah. By the way, one Lee Honeycutt, who I believe you may know, is here in the chat.
Wow. Can't believe you showed up. Welcome, sis.
What a warm welcome from you.
I'll try to.
Wow, I can't believe you showed up. Why don't you sound a little less happy about her being here? You know what? I'm happy you're
You
here.
missed Yahel admitting that he's racist against gingers. But yeah, you can.
I didn't admit
You
it.
can always go back and listen to the recording.
It's still internalized.
All right, so on with the show. Budnick and Mike. Cut to Budnick and Michael are holding buckets of water, as a punishment. Like Ugg basically berates them, and as he goes to walk away, Budnick throws his bucket of water into Michael, and Ugg looks around, and he's stupid, so he doesn't understand what happened. And now we're at...
Yeah, and to be clear, like, the bucket of water, like, they're not just holding, they're doing the whole thing where you have to, like, hold the buckets, your arms out while the buckets are filled with water, and you got to hold them up in the air.
Thank you for clarifying
which, I mean, isn't that, like, torture?
It's more of a workout, so their arms can get bigger, so the next time they fight, it's even more vicious.
Wow, Steve, you're really into these kid fights and getting them to sharpen their skills and strength.
I'm just telling you.
I'm noticing a pattern.
It could happen.
A disturbing trend.
Yeah, Camp Anawana is going to turn into the Warriors here if they're not careful.
Yeah, this is actually the origin story of the UFC, I believe.
Wow. Well played. All right, so now they're at the lodge, and the 3 lady campers, Zizi, Telly, and Dina, they sit around Michael sort of, starry-eyed because, he... went up against Budnick, and they're basically asking him all these getting to know you questions, like, what kind of music do you like? Blah, blah, blah.
Hey, so this is going to be so weirdly out of place now, but we're talking about, how you feel and want for Camp Anawana to be like a fight camp.
Though that's not what I want. I'm just,
For children. It sounds like that's what you want.
It's basically run like a prison, to be honest.
Well, maybe in season 2, like I was saying, like, and you mentioned that Michael gets replaced. Maybe they can bring in Dana White as the camp counselor for season 2.
So what you're really talking about here is the Salute Your Shorts reboot, because that sounds like
it's
something
dark, gritty, and it's like a combination of Salute Your Shorts and Battle Royale.
Zack Snyder's Salute Your Shorts. Ooh, that sounds good.
During this. One line I did want to mention, though, during this whole scene where, like, Budnick is watching, the kids, like, ask Michael all these questions. Budnick has this great line where he says, I don't like this new guy. He's athletic and popular.
Yeah, everything we're not. Yeah, that's what Donkey Lips says. But, yeah, before that, so Dina, who, and, like, it's weird because in the pilot, all the characters are, they're kind of sort of basic and then not very nuanced, and that changes as the show goes on. So like Dina is like super sort of ditzy, a rich girl, and she says all these really dumb things, including she goes, She said that they had Norwegian salmon all the way from Norwich, because she's like saying all this stuff because she's trying to impress Michael and everyone else, and she thinks that, I don't know, coming off rich is the way to like win friends and influence people and stuff. And then she goes, "Does anybody care?" And then Donkey Lips like pokes his head up and he's like, "I care." And I just think that's significant because the Donkey Lips, like Dina sort of, romance or not really romance is something that carries on like throughout the show. And Dina says, "Get lost." And then that's when Donkey Lips goes over to Budnick, and then they say the line that you said. They also...
And by the way, that line about like, oh, he's athletic and popular, everything that we're not, it comes back later on at the end of the episode in a really good way. So, yeah.
And this is basically when Budnick and Donkey Lips come up with the idea to take down Michael with, and it's the secret society. I mean, I don't really understand why they really need the secret society part, but I mean, even as a kid, I always thought it was fun. I was like, I want to be a part of their secret society. So that must be what it is, like the FOMO, if you will, of not being a part of the secret society. And so Sponge films Michael with a camcorder, and they're just sort of like out on a trail or in the woods or whatever. Then they're ambushed by Budnick and Donkey Lips. Budnick says the secret society test of courage is they have to break into the girls' bunk and bring back a few souvenirs. And in exchange, Budnick and Donkey Lips will leave them alone for the summer, but if they refuse, do you remember what the punishment is?
Isn't it like Donkey Lips will sit on him and fart or something like that? Yeah,
that's exactly.
Which is a classic, kids, teenager punishment.
Yep, and then Donkey Lips goes, "You're in luck. I had beans for dinner." So they just sort of sweeten it. And then now it's dark or nighttime. Dr. Khan says, "Good night to everyone," and we are in the girls' bunk. And this is just such good writing. Telly and Zizi, they already know that Sponge and Michael are going to raid the bunk. Also, Sponge was basically forced into this by Budnick and Donkey Lips as well. They said so he could... they even come up with a reason for him to come along. It says so he can document it for the school newspaper or something.
Yeah, because in the earlier scene, he was like... had a video camera. He said he like documents everything.
And so they're setting up all these like Home Alone style sort of traps and pranks. And they basically just turn off the lights and they go to sleep. Then anything to comment on anything that's happened so far?
No. You're doing a stupendous job, Steve.
Thanks, buddy. You ginger hating son of a.
I mean, listen, you're the one that keeps calling them gingers.
I'm calling you out, buddy, and your hatred of redheaded peoples. Okay, so outside, Ugg patrols the area. While Sponge and Michael enter the bunk. And like the music going on here is really good. In fact, the music for the entire show is just fantastic. Just perfectly underscores totally what's going on. So they go in and they're like grabbing the stuff. He's trying to get Telly's mitt. He lifts it up, and then a Polaroid camera takes a picture of them. Is that even possible? Have you ever used a Polaroid camera before?
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean? Like can it be on a timer or something?
I mean, I know it can be on a timer, but is there a way where you can put something on top of it to where it's triggered when you take it off?
I don't know. I guess the idea is like they rigged it somehow. The girls, I mean, set it up.
It's okay. I mean, this is just all fun stuff anyway. There's no need to nitpick it, but I just thought it was interesting. So Ugg enters the girls' bunk, which completely...
Oh, wait a minute. Steve, you missed a great line here where they're go over to Zizi, because, they're looking for like stuff to like take back to Budnick from the girls' souvenirs. And they're like, Zizi's diary... and
here it is.
Sponge points out that like she's wearing like headgear, like braces, and Sponge says, I didn't know she wore headgear. Clearly, it's to correct an overbite, and that sets up a joke later on that Budnick says. So I just wanted to I wanted to set it up.
Oh, well, good.
Again, really good writing.
That's
so
why
it'll
you're
come
here.
back.
That's why you're here, buddy. So yes, Ugg very inappropriately enters the girls' bunk and he sees like some of the traps, like they have on the floor set up like your sort of classic kind of alarms on a string, like a string,
like cans and things that would make noises if they walk on it.
Right, and as a you see this, and if this is your first time watching this, you're like, oh, that makes sense. They learned this in camp because that's like a sort of classic kind of camp or survivalist thing, is that you put string around your camp with little jingly things like keys and stuff. So if someone comes and tries to get you, you'll hear them coming. But it goes way further than that. So Ugg, he steps over the stuff, but. But then there's a dollar that is dangling on a string in front of him. And so since Ugg is obviously the dumbest character in the entire show, he sort of thinks...
he might be the dumbest character in the entire 90s Nickelodeon
Pantheon.
TV universe.
Yeah.
Pantheon.
He thinks about it and this is a very Homer Simpson thing too. He thinks about it. Doesn't think there's anything suspicious about a dangling dollar. He takes the dollar... And then, bam! Like all of these Home Alone style traps go off. There's rat traps that shoot eggs at him. There's what else? Help me out here. I know there's feathers at some point.
Pies.
Yeah, there's a pie.
And there's so much stuff, man. It's I like a dozen eggs total. A bunch of pies. I think tomatoes at one point, like all kinds of stuff. Like he gets slimed, but it's like beans.
Yeah,
so
they must have
ridiculous.
spent half the budget on this trap. And a little fun fact: he actually got feathers in his throat because of this, and he had to exit those feathers by using the Heimlich maneuver. The actor did.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
because feathers end up coming down. On him too. So he gets beamed and feathered.
Yeah, basically. And then there's even a battering ram. Just so over the top, like a medieval style battering ram comes and basically knocks him out of the bunk. And then while all this is happening, Michael and Sponge use that as their chance to escape. And it was just awesome. Very, very 90s, very Home Alone. Anything else to add before we move on?
No. I usually hate these kind of scenes where those Home Alone trap type things. I usually hate it. But it's so much stuff that gets thrown at him, and it's so ridiculous because it just goes on and on and on that it ends up being really funny because it's so over the top. So. Yeah.
I agree 100%. So Ugg somehow runs to the boys' bunk and he promises pizza and milkshakes for the rest of the summer to whoever tells him who did this to him. And man, this is a great line. Budnick says, "Sorry, Big Bird, go pluck yourself."
Yeah.
I laughed so hard. I mean, that's just one letter or two letters away from, saying a different word. And it's just man, early 90s Nickelodeon was so edgy. God, I miss it.
Yeah.
So Michael gives Budnick the item. So Ugg leaves. Michael gives Budnick the items he took from the girls, except for Telly's glasses, which they can't find. So they go out in the woods, but before they do, and again, this is important. Budnick, he offers to help, but for a price. And he takes his flashlight and he shines it on Michael's boombox. So basically, it's you give me the boombox, I'll help you look for the glasses. And
is this Steve? Is this where they read the diary though?
Yes, it is.
So when Budnick reads the diary, he sees that ZZ wrote something about how Michael is athletic,
and talented,
and something else.
Everything Budnick's not. Yeah.
Yeah, everything Budnick's not, which is what he had said about himself.
That's so good. Oh man.
And then Budnick's line in response, he's pissed about this, is so funny because he says, "Who cares what that stupid wolf says?" referring to her having an overbite.
Right.
That was referenced earlier. So it was so good, so clever, well written.
Yeah, this is better than it has any right to be. But
Yeah.
so Michael, all right, they're looking for the glasses, and then you hear the sound of crunching glasses. Michael steps on the glasses, and basically they're like, uh-oh. And so cut to breakfast table. The girls approach the boys. Telly is now wearing swim goggles. The girls are very angry that their stuff is gone. And actually, they Michael and Sponge, they have like a chat with Budnick beforehand, and he basically says that, hey, you're in the secret society now, like you have me as a friend, so we're gonna make sure somebody else gets blamed for you ruining Telly's glasses. So just out of nowhere, they blame some random kid who's just sitting, trying to enjoy his breakfast. The kid.
Oh wait, but even before they got to the breakfast, like there's a shot of like the loudspeaker outside, and Dr. Khan over the loudspeaker says, "Good morning, counselor campers. There's no need to run to breakfast. I've already taken the prizes out of the cereal."
Yeah, that's so good.
What a dick!
Oh man.
But yeah, they point at the kid at the table and to say he did it, and so it's another table where there's a bunch of kids sitting, and then all the kids except one like leave the table. They're like scatter.
Like sad, creepy looking kid who, I don't know, he reminded me of like Stephen King or something, just with his glasses or whatever.
A little Garth Marenghi-esque.
Yeah, actually he was. So Budnick grabs a thing of syrup and says, "It's awful waffle time." And then then it starts getting a little weird, very tribal, if you will. They grab the kid and put him on the table. And the weird part here is that the kid isn't even struggling. He's just like, "Welp, this is just how it is.
This is my fate.
Yeah.
This is my lot in life."
He doesn't
say anything.
Yeah, he doesn't protest, like nothing.
I mean, I'm sure that the kid didn't like have any lines here because they don't want to you have to pay him more.
Right.
If he has a speaking line. So I'm sure like it was a budget thing, but it does come off a little weird. Honestly, I would say this is my only like minor nitpick. With the whole episode, but I mean, it's whatever. I mean,
it reminded me of when, Bible Man showed up at, inside the church, and like no one cared that he was there. They just didn't pay him any mind. But
right.
Anyway, all right, so moving on. So they're preparing this kid for an awful waffle. Michael asks Sponge what an awful waffle is, and he whispers it in his ear. And whatever it is, it's so bad. It causes Michael, like, basically to confess and to apologize to Telly. And, of course, everyone's disappointed now because before Michael was the golden boy who stood up to Budnick. And now Telly is basically like, "Oh, you're no better than Budnick. You're just as bad as him." And Budnick is like, he would have gotten away with it, well, basically Michael and the rest like basically leave, show's over, they're leaving, and Budnick, he says to Sponge, he's like, what an idiot. He would have gotten away with it, but at least we have one member for the new, secret society, referring to Sponge. And then Sponge, I guess, inspired by Michael's honesty, decides, or he says that, they should have T-shirts, and then he grabs some ketchup, and he
Budnick's like, "Oh, what should we have on the T-shirts?" And I wonder if you had the same thought I did. Like, so like he picks up the ketchup, Sponge does, and he like he's like, "Oh, they should have like an SS or Secret Society," and then he like puts SS on his chest with ketchup. I'm like, ooh, the SS, like the Nazis.
Yeah, that we might be reading a little too deep into that.
I think we are.
But hey, that's what this show is all about. So, basically he sprays Budnick and then runs away. I mean, basically I'd say it's just so he can have, I guess, like a positive end to his character arc, I guess. I don't know. What do you think about Sponge's actions here? Because before he was just the dude who went along with everything.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be that Michael inspired him. But I also feel, and I could be misremembering the show, but I think like this was a pretty common thing where there would be a lot of episodes where somebody stands up to the bullying,
Right.
From those guys. So I think it's like pretty frequent occurrence, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. It works. It works for sure.
Yeah, but I think it's good because you want to see the bad guys, the bullies, get their comeuppance. And certainly kids would.
100%.
So I think.
Yeah, and you're right. If he wouldn't have, sprayed him with ketchup, then yeah, that never would have happened. So yeah, good point. All right, so now we are back at the guy's bunk, and after telling Sponge he's not interested in leaving the bunk, and basically, they're implying that Michael's just sort of been staying in the bunk, kind of being down on himself for all the events that transpired. Michael, he leans back on his bed, and he hits his head on something hard, and behind his pillow is his boombox, which is a pretty awesome little reveal. And then Telly shows up, and basically she's like, hey, I won it off of Budnick playing tetherball, which again, I mean, this place is run like a prison, so you can go with it.
Hey, we had tetherball at my elementary school.
I know, but were you playing kids for their lunch money and their items and stuff? It's like, hey, yo, kid, you beat me in tetherball. I give you $20 if I beat you.
Right. It is, okay, that is prison-like, but Dana White runs a tight ship.
Yeah. Right. So Telly says that she got contacts, that insurance paid for them. And then she also says that she, would have, really hated Michael had he not told her the truth. So he's only kind of like a half sleazeball, not a full sleazeball. Yeah,
she says she's like, I half hate you.
Yeah.
They kind of have, because don't they have a bit of a romantic relationship throughout the series, I thought? Or
I'm
misremembering that.
Maybe on again, off again. I mean, it's clear that they're planting the seeds, because earlier they were like, hey, we've got the same shoes, because I guess the idea is that they're both into sports. So, of course they would both be into each other. So, and then what happened? All right, so they exit, or Telly and Michael exit, and then ZZ and Dina TP the boys' bunk. And
they say, oh, we got to hurry up and TP this entire room before they get back. So it was the girls' plan to get them back and prank the boys back.
Yeah.
So they again, Michael, deservedly so, he gets a little bit of comeuppance, even though he's more like a criminal with a heart of gold, I guess you could say.
Wow.
He's not
very noir, very indeed.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that's pretty much the episode.
Mm-hmm. So let's run the bumper. Here we go. Question. So before we completely render our verdict, I had a little bit of trip. I think I touched on all of the little tidbits that I wrote down, because there was a lot. They were just saying originally, in this episode, obviously Donkey Lips is like a bully or henchman to Budnick, but obviously that changes as the show went on. He became more, lovable, basically a lovable oaf, if you will. And in the pilot that you can watch on YouTube, Donkey Lips is the bully and Budnick is the henchman. But in between, the time between filming the unaired pilot and the first episode, Budnick hit a growth spurt, and they thought that he was just so charismatic that they went ahead and made him the head bully. And here's a little tidbit that I've never noticed, and I'm just interested if you picked up on this. Apparently, in every episode, there's a hidden rubber chicken with a cigarette in its mouth. Did you even see that in this episode?
No.
Yeah,
no,
me
did
either.
You see it?
Nope. And I guess probably the most important piece of info here is, why the show ended. And I guess at this point in Nickelodeon's production history, they were moving everything to Orlando, and basically the people involved with Salute Your Shorts was like, hey, we don't want to move to Orlando. And there was also sort of disagreements between the creator and Nickelodeon. They couldn't agree on future budgets. So sadly, we only got 2 seasons of Salute Your Shorts because of that. And last but not least, I'll mention in 1997, Nickelodeon had reduced Salute Your Shorts to the weekends only airing one episode on Saturday and one on Sunday. And then by February of 1998, the series was officially scrubbed from programming, along with all the other early 1990s programming, because the new head of the company at the time wanted to change their image to more corporate and kid-friendly, and thought that the majority of the 1990s shows were too adult-oriented. So there you go. That's when we went from cool, edgy Nickelodeon to, Disney Channel Nickelodeon.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's due to the success of Nick Jr. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, because from what I remember reading something about it a long time ago, and basically like Nick Jr. did very, very well, and a lot of the shows on Nick Jr. were cheaper to purchase and produce. Versus, a lot of the other 90s like Nick shows, even though they weren't expensive to produce by TV standards, you still had, shows like, I don't know, like Guts and Wild and Crazy Kids, where you had a lot of sets or a lot of kids there and blah, 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 blah. So yeah.
Don't forget about Are You Afraid of the Dark, a show that we already covered. If you like to hear people talk about other Nickelodeon shows, but without further ado, Camper Velazquez, do you think that Salute Your Shorts should be remembered for all of human history, or tossed in the void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
I think it's pretty obvious. I think it should be remembered. It held up even better than I thought it would. And I think I liked it better now than I did as a kid, because I got like all the jokes this time, and I could really like better appreciate the writing and all the setups and that kind of stuff. What about you?
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I think back when you're watching this as a kid, you're like, oh, I like this, but you don't really know why you like it. But yeah, now, clearly, the writing was just fantastic. The acting is good. Great personalization of all the characters and everything. And really, I think it was pretty obvious that, both of us were, big fans from the get-go. But it was weird. I was reading that, throughout the 90s, or when they took this off the show, off of Nickelodeon, there was nowhere to watch it at all. Like, not even, I don't even think there was like a DVD for the longest time. So luckily you can go watch it on Paramount Plus. And hey, if enough people watch it and talk about it and care about it, maybe they'll bring back a nice nerfed version of it that isn't funny or interesting at all.
Either that or a gritty reboot. UFC Junior maybe will be. It'll air right after Silk Stockings Junior.
Yes, call back. Well done.
I did want to mention Smoke Monster in the chat when we were talking about the change in kind of programming on Nickelodeon. He mentioned that Ren and Stimpy left a bad taste in their mouth, and that there is a great documentary about the best Nickelodeon years called The Orange Years. I think it's on Hulu. It's been on my watch list forever. I keep forgetting about it, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. And Smoke Monster says he highly recommends it.
All right. Well, if you can't trust a guy named Smoke Monster, then who can you trust? Aside from us.
Someone named Zeke, that's who.
Yeah. And of course, us here at Obscurity Now. And anything else before we sign? Oh, we got to do the remembered. Here we go. In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show. All right. Well, that is basically our show. Anything else to add, Camper Yahel, before we sign off here today?
No. I do see that Smoke Monster said he doesn't trust himself any longer after he found himself enjoying a Lego game recently. Yeah, we're going to block you from the channel.
I don't know. Those games are okay. There's nothing.
Yeah, they're fine. I've played a couple of them. They're pretty fun.
Is there a Salute Your Shorts Lego game that I'm unaware of? Because why even bring it up, Smoke Monster?
He's a Lego head now. He just looks for any excuse to bring it up. Much like I look for any excuse to bring up my vasectomy.
Oh, we're back on that again?
Which it'll be the 1 year anniversary in a little bit under 4 months, Steven.
I know a piece.
So look forward to the special vasectomy episode of Obscurity Now.
I'm sorry to bring it back to the podcast, but this is episode 95 of Obscurity Now, and I meant to mention this at the beginning of the show, but yeah, we're going to be hitting 100 here soon. If for some reason you listen and aren't subscribed, please do. I mean, I would love for us to hit 500 on YouTube before our 500 subscribers, that is, on YouTube before we get to our 100th episode. Just, for no other reason than it's a nice round number. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and Steve Smoke Monster mentioned that he's had a vasectomy too. I just
wow, I'm feeling left out.
And I would love for us to hit 500 subscribers too, but I would like at least a third of those to be vasectomized.
Vasectomized?
Had a vasectomy, so that was a great.
Well, they can subscribe as long as they don't have red hair. Is that what you were going to say?
Listen, there'll be. I'll tell you what. For the 500 subscriber gets a free vasectomy.
Who's going to do it? I mean, I thought you were going to do it.
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe if they're red hair, consider it.
So what you're saying is you're trying to wipe out the red-haired species off the face of the earth. Is that what you're saying?
Steve, if they want the vasectomy and they have red hair, and that means less of these people, just kidding.
All right. Well, I think we've alienated ourselves enough, at least from people with red hair. So shall we sign off for today?
Yes,
and I guess last but not least, there's still plenty of issues or copies of Escape to Earth. Number 1, if you'd like to order one, there'll be a link in the description. Until then, make sure you join us next Sunday as we continue to unearth even more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next time.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.